Group C was the final group to debut at the Gold Cup last night in New York, and we've got all the nuts and bolts from Mexico and Cuba and Honduras and Panama. Welcome along to Inside the Gold Cup. My name is Dennis Katsanos. With me, my two guru swamis. I guess you could call them the senseis, the Obi-Wan and Yoda of football. Yes, John Hux.
Am I Obi-Wan?
I don't know. You can be whoever you want.
The wise man, Yoda.
It's John Hux and Shep.
He has the knowledge, the experience.
But a couple of fantastic games in Group C yesterday, Shep.
Yeah, great games. And I think two very different games, because in the Panama-Honduras game, you felt that those are two teams evenly matched. Going in, they think Mexico's the powerhouse. Maybe we're fighting for that second spot. Turned out to be a very even game. Mexico-Cuba, that was a different story.
A different story. And, you know, Mexico, you would think, would come out and really dictate the pace of the game and take it to them. But Cuba, a nice surprise. Nice to see them coming out, pushing the game onto Mexico, and it disrupted their game in the back. Very nice.
Well, quite often we see in tournaments, whether it be the World Cup or the Gold Cup, quite often some of the smaller teams come out there and upset some of the bigger teams. In your own personal experience, have you ever gone out to a game and think, right, we're going to smash these guys? No worries, yeah, got it sorted.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, unfortunately, you know, that's why the mindset of the players, you need somebody to manage you. That's why, you know, you have a manager. And this is, and Shep will talk from experience as well. There's always been times where you've been overconfident and then you've been surprised, you've walked away and said, how have we lost that game? Even if you've outshot them and the stats and everything else, they get the one exercise or the one chance forward and they put it together and it's in the back of the net and you walk away scratching your head. So yeah, it happens quite a lot. And unfortunately, in this game, in the modern day football, you can't come out lackadaisical. You have to come out, it's anyone's match. And I think what we're seeing even now, what we've seen over in the World Cup in years and experience, is that bottom, you know, dweller is now closing the gap to the top teams. And we're seeing that from Guadeloupe in the opening game for them.
Yep.
And then we saw it last night as well.
Yeah, I think there are two factors really when it comes to two teams that are on the field with very disparate levels of talent. The powerhouse, they have to first come out and play hard. 90 minutes, get stuck in, track back, chase. The second thing is, John, they can't get overconfident. Sometimes that team, you know, no problem, Cuba, we're going to send our outside backs, get into the attack. All of a sudden, they're a little bit exposed, and they get burnt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, really when you talk about it, Mexico scores a little bit against the run of play. Cuba sometimes was dictating the pace. And when we talk about Honduras and Panama, you know, Panama disappointing for me. You look at them in 2005. I mean, a lot's changed in the last 2 years, obviously, but they came out and everything to play for. And unfortunately, you know, they sat back a little bit too. I mean, they get the result, but they didn't play like a strong powerhouse team. I thought they would more dominate more Honduras.
Now, when you were playing for the US, Shep, particularly yourself in the 70s, not one of the powerhouse teams or nowhere near up to the fifth where they were in the World rankings just before the 2006 World Cup. What was your mindset going into some of the games against the powerhouse teams?
Well, first of all, we were always far better than New Zealand. So let's keep,
as long as we get that clear.
I think in my lifetime, I think you always will be.
Let's keep it in perspective. But when you're the underdog, when you're the team, John, and we've been there a couple of times, you know, I think that's only a great opportunity. The players, the coach, everybody in the locker room, you say, hey, you know what? We have nothing to lose. We have everything to gain. Let's go out and play.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing you want to be able to focus on, and that's called positive football. You know, you want to be the one that takes it to them. You want to make their left back and their right back worry about your left winger and right winger. And it's all positive pushing forward. It's not sitting back and saying, oh, how is the game going to come to me? Go and make the game yourself. And I think that's what we're seeing throughout this Gold Cup.
Well, we have seen some fantastic upsets in the Gold Cup. Jamaica and Brazil with a draw. Also, Brazil and Guatemala a draw. But one of the ones actually was, John, it was after you'd finished, was the USA beating Brazil in the 98 Gold Cup. Just getting smart here. Canada defeated Mexico 2-1. And Cuba's only win at the Gold Cup so far is over Canada 2-0.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to correct you there, I did play in that match. So.
You did? At the Gold Cup in 98?
Yeah.
I thought you only played in 93 and 96.
No, I played in 98 as well. It was in January. It was played out in California. Yeah, so there you are.
All right. Okay.
There's a little fact for you. Perez scored the goal. He came in as scored the lone goal. Casey Keller had the blinder.
Okay. All right. No, I stand corrected. Now, the one
No,
thing
you're sitting, actually.
Now, the one thing I can say, though, is 93, 96, 98 Mexico. 91 you weren't playing, the USA won, and then after that, of course, was Canada. So
I don't understand what your point is, but
three
anyway,
on with the show.
On with the show.
All right, no, fair enough. Now, if you look at some of the upsets that we have seen at the Gold Cup, is there potential at this tournament, from what you've seen in the first round of play, for anyone to upset anyone in the next round of play?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, John, and we discussed it, everybody anticipating Mexico, clearly a powerhouse, the USA, clearly a powerhouse, but I don't know about you, John, the way I look at the U.S. game against Guatemala, the way I look at Mexico against Cuba, they got a long road to go. I can easily see one of them getting knocked off before they get to the final.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that as well, when you look at some of the other groups, you take a look at Canada, and upsetting Costa Rica as well. I mean, these are teams that are coming out, and whether they're organized or they're getting better chances in the game, they're being created going forward or whatever it may be. But I think they're taking the most of their opportunities, and so you are seeing these teams that are coming out and they're competing.
Well, when we come back, we take a look at the first game from Group C of the Gold Cup 2007 between Panama and Honduras.
Gatorade Sports Science Institute. We test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
This is the technical analysis show for the Gold Cup called Inside the Gold Cup, where we saw Group C on display yesterday. Yes, Mexico, Panama, Honduras and Cuba make up this group, with Mexico playing Cuba, and the first game of the evening was between Panama and Honduras. And Shep, with Panama having made the finals last year, a little bit of extra weight on their shoulders to perform well at this tournament.
Well, I think you're right, Dennis. Having said that, I think Honduras and Panama pretty evenly matched. They look at Mexico as, hey, one spot's gone, we're fighting for the second spot. Most people think it's going to be between these two teams.
Yeah, and I think that, honestly, when I looked at that, and I thought that Honduras came out, and I think they managed the game fairly well and matched up against Panama extremely well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this was a game.
They dictated the pace of the game. They took it to them, very attacking soccer in mind. They had full confidence in their game. I thought Panama was very apprehensive in what to do. They looked a little bit confused. Well,
speaking of Panama being apprehensive, let's have a look at the team lineup that took the field. The man that had most of the decision-making on his shoulders was Alexandre Gomes, the coach that used to coach Costa Rica, and now with Panama in his debut tournament.
Well, you look at this team, pretty well balanced. If you have to single out one player, Blas Perez, a lot of people saying he could be the best striker in this tournament. Remember, Suazo not here with Honduras. I think Borghetti surely has to be one of the best strikers, but Perez having a terrific season playing in Colombia. He's a man to watch.
Well, conversely for Honduras, plenty of talent on the field as we saw during the game, but the one man, Amaro Guevara.
Amaro Guevara, yeah, fantastic player. I mean, he's always been a player that can do things creatively going forward, and he's a great passer of the ball. I mean, heck, Shep's a good passer of the ball as well. So what are you going to do on the pitch? You're going to make things happen and bring players around you, make them better. I think he did that a little bit last, in the last match there against Panama. But having said that, they had to dictate through the midfield and a little bit up front.
And John, you know him on a personal level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was with the Red Bulls in New York as of last year. Moved to Chivas USA, and now he's back in Honduras playing his professional club football.
Well, all the expectation was on Panama's shoulders for this game. Let's see how they went against Honduras.
The game started out, guys, with Honduras having much of the ball until this. What in the world are you doing? Palacios comes in, two-footed, studded tackle on Rivera, red card, and Panama takes advantage. Man up. Very sharp angle. Rivera cracks it at goal, and that's a nightmare for the goalkeeper, Teosaro. I mean, that's not good. Same for Amado Guevara.
And talking about a nightmare, I mean, look, Guevara strikes us very well, but at the same time, Shep, and you know this better than anybody, trust your wall, try not to cheat in behind it. Unfortunately, the goalkeeper got caught there on the keeper's side.
Yeah, Panama came right back. We talked about Perez. I'll tell you what, his vertical leap, look at that. Perfect timing. Defender doesn't get the job done.
And that's a great ball in there from Torrez as well, the number 5, who was pushing forward a little bit more in the attack for Panama towards the end of the half.
Yeah, Honduras really, I thought, dominated the game, but they get caught again here. Garce, second half substitute, great little cutback, finds some room with the right foot, smacks it to the far post.
And a fantastic strike it was, and isn't soccer so cruel? All you need is one chance on goal, and that was it. They did very well.
Yeah, this is too little, too late. In stoppage time, this makes it 3-2. Substitute Costly gets the goal, and you really have to feel a little bit sorry, John, for Honduras. I thought they were the better team. Here's the goal in stoppage time. Trickle in at the far post. Look at that in terms of shots.
Yeah, statistically speaking, Honduras are very much the dominant team. However, the one that counts is the score. 3-2 the final score, but with 18 shots on goal and 11 corners, they definitely weren't shy to go forward, John.
No, not at all, and especially in a physical match. Even you look at 38 total fouls in that game, but you know, Honduras took the game to Panama. They went after them. They pushed the game. They better in possession as well through the midfield. Really fluid soccer, good ball circulation around the back. Very confident in their play. They look like a solid team, and unfortunately, they just didn't put enough balls in the back of the net, and that's what it comes down to.
Now, having a look at Panama, Shep, you were saying when we were off camera before, you were very, very impressed with Gomes, some of his decision-making during that game.
Well, yes, I was impressed with him for a 10-minute stretch, because when Palacios, in the 24th minute, and I got to get back to that play, John, because you talk about plays that really, you know, they determine the outcome of the game. The game starts, Honduras has Panama under pressure. Absolutely no tactical, technical reason for him to go in with a 2-foot sliding tackle from behind and get the red card.
Yeah.
It's just a bonehead play.
It is a bad play, and it's lack of discipline, and especially early on in this situation, in a game like that where they had to run a play, and you said that in the highlights, that Honduras were controlling things. They seemed to be doing very well. They got in behind them quite a bit, especially down the right-hand side with our boy.
Yeah.
You know, Alvarez, we were talking about him, how good he is. What a great player. I mean, a lot of speed and quickness. He was able to get down there, number 17. So everything was going well until that. Now, Palacios, he goes in there from the side. It reminds me of like a Pablo Mastroeni against Italy in the World Cup against the USA. Not a good decision, pal. And now, unfortunately, they're playing a man down. And even though they are still a better team in ball possession and getting forward and dictating the rhythm of the game, they're a man down. So they have to compromise positions all over the field.
And that's where coaching, though, makes a difference. That's what I liked about Panama. As soon as that red card came out, most coaches, managers, sometimes they try and figure it out,
right.
wait till halftime, boom. Made a substitution right away, put Phillips in, more of an attacking midfielder, no longer needed 2 holding midfielders. Right. So as soon as Palacios was out, within 2 minutes, took out a defensive player, put in a playmaking, attacking midfielder, and got a goal.
Yeah, and that's the mindset, and that's the difference in coaches. You know, you talk about a guy like Ben Hacker, who's the Dutch coach as well from the World Cup with Trinidad and Tobago, and he takes a player, gets a player sent off, and then puts another striker on as well to dictate pace going forward, so they have a chance to relieve pressure, and that's exactly the point you're making there. He made the move right away, didn't hesitate and dwell on it, waste any time. He said, this is what I want to do, and this is how we're going to be successful today, and he made the change.
John, how did the pitch affect the teams?
Well, I think, you know, I was able to talk to both, federations, you know, really all 4. And these guys were complaining about how slow the field was. It was a heavy pitch. It was thicker grass. It was set. They soaked it as well to make the ball zip around a little bit quicker. But it slowed down the play a little bit. And I think it changed the way, you know, obviously throughout 90 minutes, you're going to have heavy legs when you're playing on a thick grass like that.
Well, the one thing, though, I don't think Panama did well. I'm really disappointed because I thought Honduras was the better team, even playing for so much of the game. A man down, but John, you know, you got a man up, you got the lead, you got to make the ball do the work. Spread the field, play first touch, play quickly, change the point of attack, make Honduras now chase, tired legs. But it was the opposite. Panama played too slowly, didn't play smartly enough, didn't make the ball move, and you got to give credit to Honduras the way they fought.
Absolutely, and one thing, Shep, as well, which we pointed out, we talked about, in terms of playing football, like advanced football, going forward with a positive attitude, more corner kicks, putting pressure on their center backs as well, tucking in and being compact in midfield, picking up the second ball. all of that happened. I mean, Honduras made the game. They made a game out of it, and that's the best thing to see. That's a positive thing for them moving forward to the next match.
Yeah, I like the way they look. The other thing, and we talked about Amado Guevara, and you know him very well. We've all seen him play. It's where does he play in the midfield? He's got the ability to track back. He likes to sit deep.
You're right.
Sometimes, depending upon where you're at managing the game, you'd like to see him get forward into the attacking third more.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think as well as Honduras, they had to play a little bit more side by side, and we're used to seeing really Guevara playing as an attacking midfield role, finding the game up there off the center striker, and unfortunately he has to play more of a defensive, role in the match against Panama. So
yeah, he's got the great ability on a set piece, on a corner kick, to strike the ball. That was another shot that was touched over. Again, the free kick, you alluded to it, the wall protects one corner of the goalkeeper.
Yep.
He's got to make that save. But Mano Guevara, I like Honduras. I think Panama a little shaky, even though they got the victory, but it's where will Amado Guevara play in the field? He can hold the ball, let Alvarez and other teammates get forward wide into the attack.
yeah, absolutely.
Do you think the four teams that had to play on that pitch, do you think they'll be able to cater to it a little bit better in their next matches?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think you learn from experience, and that's what you're supposed to do, and some do better than others. I mean, obviously, you take that into account in the way you play, but I think Honduras, no matter what, still had the better ball possession. I think Panama, like Shep said, were very slow in terms of opening up the game and really having enough confidence to say, let's send number forward. They weren't putting the players forward. They weren't in advanced positions that they could test their back line and play on that little line of all sides. Are we tight? Are we getting in behind them a little bit? They were playing everything short and safe and really conservative and seemed a little bit scared and tense. I mean, but at the same time, look, hey, Gimenez makes the most of the game. Good decision making from a coach. Changes it a little bit there. They get the goals, and great substitution. The goal substitute goes in there. That's what you want from a coach. It makes a difference right away.
And again, the interesting thing in the group stage, the opening round, is get the result. I mean, we're not thinking 3 games out. Get the result, play the 90 minutes in front of you, and let's adjust for the next game.
Right.
Well, when we come back, it's off to Mexico and Cuba. Game 2 in Group C from the Gold Cup 2007.
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, where Game 2 in Group C was between Mexico and Cuba. And Shep, I don't know if Hugo Sanchez had a sweat on because it was hot at the Giant Stadium, or whether it was because he got out with a narrow result.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think you need to worry about Hugo Sanchez. Hugo Sanchez, John, needs to start rethinking his team, because I thought really Cuba was the better team for many stretches of the game.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when you talk about not just the formation and the style of play from Cuba, but also some individuals like Alcantara, these guys, they really made them sweat a little bit in the back, and I think that Mexico had to adjust to Cuba instead of really Cuba adjusting to Mexico. And it didn't show in terms of like the maybe stats, which we hate.
Yeah, we hate
but
stats.
having said that,
noticed.
I think Cuba did a very good job of coming out there and playing some positive football, moving forward, and also spreading the field. I mean, they did a great job.
We touched on this about teams going in right at the very start about being too confident, etc. Do you think maybe Sanchez and Mexico went into this thinking easy 3 points?
Well, I don't know if it's strictly a function. It could be. They're going to talk about it after the game. But really what made the difference was the way Cuba played. They came right out at the opening whistle, John, made good runs off the ball, knocked the ball around. I thought it was important that they played first touch. They used the width of the field. And they found some spots on the right side and the left side that Mexico they just weren't sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there was times when Mexico were a little bit confused in terms of who's picking up this player coming forward. Is it me? Is it you? Am I sliding across? Am I covering off of your shoulder? Is he tucking in? And it just looked like tactically they had to really do a lot of adjustments. And really in the post-game comments from Hugo Sanchez as well, he was very complimentary to Cuba. So I think even he was a bit surprised as well, like in terms of what you were saying, Dennis. He was kind of like, wow, they actually played very well. Look at the pace of them, the speed, the skill, moving the ball. It was fantastic.
Well, let's have a look at the lineup that Hugo Sanchez put on the field for Mexico. And a few surprises in there, weren't there?
Well, you know, the surprise for me, and he does have some injured players, but Borghetti started the game really as a lone striker. Castillo tucked more into the midfield. He changed it up, and I think the player that made the difference for me, for Mexico, that allowed them to squeak out a victory was putting Fonseca in the second half. He formed a better pairing with Borghetti up top.
Absolutely, and I think Bautista, you know, the other guy, kind of number 23, he dropped into the midfield really as an attacking midfield role, and he didn't do much in the game. He was really kind of out of it, and he didn't really supply those balls forward, Shep, that you were saying, it really into Borghetti. He got a lot in terms of the headers early on. There was one in the 8th minute, a good header. But in terms of the flow of the game and the ball movement, I think Bautista really was disappointing.
Well, for this Cuban side, some unfamiliar names to the world of football, but tell you what, they're very, very familiar now. Names like Duarte, Fife, but the one that really stood out was Alcantara.
Alcantara played very well up front for Cuba. I tell you, he just was busy right away. He wanted the ball played into feet. He wanted it in behind. He made a lot of great runs that really dissected the defense, which we were talking about early on.
And when we see that lineup, some of the versatility out of the defense, I think Cuba did a great job moving without the ball. Duarte got into the attack.
Very good.
Savante got into the attack. Again, a superb game by Cuba.
Yeah, I mean, constant, not just that, their organization as well. Their triangles all over the field. They were knocking the ball around right and left. They always had plenty of options off the ball, so their movement was great.
Well, let's see how the Mexicans got on against Cuba in Game 2 from Group C.
Now, that's a great ball looking for Borghetti. Molina, the 42-year-old goalkeeper, is out there. Borghetti can't do any better. Here is the shocking moment, and it's Cuba. Alcantara cuts it back to his right foot, smacks the ball. That's a great goal, but a total breakdown for me, John, in terms of defense. Cuba tries to get one right back. Castillo whips it over. Molina with the touch.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is Bautista. This is the ball that he does play to Borghetti that leads to the goal, and everybody questioning offsides, but definitely not when the ball was first played through. But that's really all that really Bautista did in that match. He contributed, but he contributed when it mattered.
Went into the second half, and it was still a very even game. Here's the second half substitute. Fonseca gets to the near post, drives it. Molina can't hold on. Castillo tucks it away. Opportunistic goal.
Yeah, Neri Castillo was always threatening the goal mouth. He did drop into the midfield in the first half, but second half pushed a little bit higher up the field, and I think it paid off there.
Oh, here's the bit you guys love, don't you? Look at you. Now, in fairness, though, having a look at those stats, particularly with that one shot on goal for Cuba to Mexico's 10, if you were to just look at that, it doesn't really paint the picture of the game, does it, John?
No, absolutely not. It's misleading, completely misleading, and I think that Cuba really, and Shep and I discussed this as well, when you talk about shots on goal, we're wondering who really put that stat together. I mean, they threatened the goal mouth plenty of times, Cuba, and maybe it wasn't an absolute shot right on the goal, but it was over the bar, just past the post, and so it doesn't really tell the story properly.
Yeah, we're not slamming the statisticians. They all do.
We're not going after them.
No,
Okay?
they do a great job, but like
yeah.
John said, it doesn't reflect dangerous situations,
Yes,
getting into dangerous
absolutely.
spots on the field, not just about shots on goal. And again, for Mexico, if you're going to give them any credit, John, you know, they got by. They adjusted, found a way to get that winning goal,
Yeah.
you know, move on to another day.
And I think this is a good point, Shep, and this is what makes them still a very good team. Okay, they were a little bit surprised, maybe unorganized, and some of the individuals didn't stand out, but you got to think, too, they're missing Pinto, Blanco, all these other players, maybe due to injuries, maybe even tactical situations about maybe they underestimated them. We don't have to play them in the first game against Cuba. All right, then it almost cost them, but they are a good side, Mexico. They didn't play too well last night. I'm just saying they're still, I think, a good side.
Well, if we break this game down, we'd see that Cuba very easily got out wide and really tore up the Mexican defence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Cuba did a good job of just like penetrating balls through the midfield. getting around outside. Shep mentioned as well that they had good wide play. Look, these are players that were able to come out here. They broke down the game. I mean, this is very simple. Look at the possession here. It's just very simple for them. They look like they're on top of their game. The movement off the ball, the penetration through the midfield, the combination play was fantastic, and there was always something on the end of it. That's the difference. It wasn't as if they just played the ball in their own half. Possession in the final third is a very good thing to have.
Yeah, John makes a great point. Possession's easy when you're playing safe, when you're playing square. Look at the good triangles they're using to get up. And as John puts it, positive soccer. They're playing quickly, making good little runs off the ball, and they're trying to achieve something. So change the point of attack, get forward, one-time pass. That's great, great stuff. The eventual header doesn't go on goal, but that's beautiful soccer.
Exactly. And what the good thing is as well, Shep, I'm not just looking at Cuba in terms of how well they move the ball. And this is the one that leads to the goal. And look at this. Alcantara, great touchback, and bang, picks out his corner, sticks it away. How do you like it? Say no more. I mean, the one thing is, you see it's evident from that game as well. Mexico was always second laced to the ball. They're always like, am I stepping early? It wasn't a tight marking, so I think that's where they were confused. And Cuba did a good job of setting them off their match.
Yeah, again, we're talking a lot about what Mexico didn't do.
Right, they won the game.
Still won
we
the
know
game.
they won
Yeah,
the
fair
game.
enough.
But you know what, John? In many ways, if you're Hugo Sanchez, you can now go back into training camp and go, hey guys, this is not good enough. Here's what we have to do. I think you're right. Some players out of position, they did look confused in terms of marking and responsibilities. Again, the goal is to get out of the group, and I think right now one thing we take away from it, originally we thought Panama, Honduras, who's fighting for second place? Well, guess what? Cuba's fighting for second place spot as well.
Absolutely. And the one thing about Cuba, and you talk about like whether it be the coaches putting their stamp on the game. I mean, Cuba, for me, I thought they defended with a 4-5-1. When they attacked, it was almost a 3-4-3, like the old Dutch system. And when you have a 3-4-3 running at you and playing through the midfield and getting wide in the midfield and getting wingers at you and guys going through penetrating from the center of the pitch, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I think
They did it well.
Cuba did everything well. They look forward to the next game. Mexico, Dennis, they must improve.
Well, how much of it was Cuba, Cuba outplaying Mexico? How much of it was Mexico not playing that well?
Well, Mexico didn't play well, Dennis, but what I'm saying, like, is in terms of what I just mentioned, it's about the attacking style of play as well, and then in the defensive shape. So you're talking about transition. How quickly can they get back behind the ball? I thought Cuba did it a lot better. Mexico, on the other hand, I think they were slow in the transition. Bautista in the central midfield, I think he was one of the causes of that. I think when he lost the ball, or he got caught in possession in a very important part of the field, Chef, centrally, I didn't think that Mexico really did a good job of closing down the space, and that allowed Cuba to push forward and have those triangles of playing off of each other, moving forward, getting in behind, and they were so dangerous, I thought Cuba did a great job.
Dennis, at this level, you need to have pressure on the ball. If you allow anybody time and space, they're going to knock it around, they're going to get forward.
Right.
So I think it's a function, a little bit overconfident, not a good game for Mexico. Cuba, nothing to worry about, everything the game, they came out and played well.
All right, well, let's flip it. On a positive note, what were you happy or impressed with Mexico, Shep?
Nothing. I
Really?
I really was not. I think they're a great team. When you talk about the talent on this Mexican team, I think they're brilliant. I didn't see anything I really liked. Fonseca, a little bit of life in the second half. I really saw nothing. And I'm not just picking on Mexico. I feel the same way about the U.S. performance in their opening game. Nothing I really like. So time to get better.
I mean, the more I think about the match, I think, Guardado on the left side as well as Lozano, I think they had a good job of understanding, like interchanging, left midfield, left back, trying to get forward. They exposed that a little bit, but in terms of like what Shep's saying too, there wasn't one individual that really stood out, or really as a team, in their shape as well. They didn't seem like they were a positive team that was compact, really organized, and they knew how to dictate and manage the side. The one thing about, you talk about Borghetti. I mean, he's dangerous, a big guy in the box, but in terms of playing with his feet and stuff, he didn't do much at all.
Well, I do like.
I mean, I know you like Borghetti.
No. I like Fonseca.
Okay.
To me, if I'm Hugo Sanchez, I'm now thinking, you know what? I started the game with Borghetti, Fonseca on the bench. I know he's got other options if they're healthy, but I think Fonseca, and I know you disagree a little bit.
No, I mean,
but
Fonseca's
he
okay.
he gave them energy. He's going to run at you with the ball at his feet. He's going to find a good space next to Borghetti. So one thing maybe I take away from that game is maybe he gives Fonseca a place in the starting 11.
Yeah, maybe you can even drop like a guy like Lozano on the left-hand side,
Right.
and then there you can move Castillo outside if you want to. If you want to
like
keep the
that
number
too.
21 Castillo up front, he was kind of drifting, like you said, into the midfield, and he was pulling out that sort of pattern run, dipping back towards the ball, and then bending down the
Curling out.
left-hand side. So maybe you can make those changes as well for the next match.
Let's call Hugo Sanchez.
John, now you mentioned the absence of some of the key players in the Mexican side, but with a team that great and with so much kudos, you would expect some of the younger guys to step up and shine, and this is their opportunity, especially when some of the guys that are playing at the Barcelonas and the big clubs of the world aren't there.
Well, I agree. I mean, you want players to step up, and you always want good leadership on the field. I mean, I think when it comes down to certain decision-making things, you know, and even when I think about one of the leaders that have been there for Mexico, Pardo.
Yeah.
You look at Pardo, he didn't play well in the central midfield.
No,
I think
he did
his role was kind of minimized just because he was looking to find the game, but he wasn't really dictating the game, like giving the ball, I'm a ball winner, and I'll dish it off to the next player going forward. So, yeah, they need more players to step up and be good leaders.
How critical will the Mexican press be on Sanchez?
Well, we've seen it before. I've been in the stadium when they've been critical on coaches and managers asking for their heads to be chopped off.
They get critical in the 50th minute. So,
Yeah.
you know, we talked about players that are missing, and we want to keep, you know, this in the scheme of things. It's a
Right.
great game.
They
It's a
got the
great
result.
team.
They got the result.
I think a player they need, though, if he gets back from injury, is their big guy in the back, Marquez.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Now, I've heard comments that, you know, Sanchez has been booed when Mexico was playing Paraguay. That must be quite a hard thing to take as a coach when you're standing on the sideline and your own countrymen or your own fans are so critical of you.
Well, I think the Mexican fans, I think for years, and, you know, have always been impatient. You know, I think they want success yesterday. And it's very true. And when you're actually in the stadium, and, you know, I recall back to the qualification rounds, you know, going towards the 98 World Cup, we ended up getting a draw down there with Jeff Agus being sent off. So we had 10 men. They expected all of a sudden, and this is like we were just talking about tactically, they expected for them to always come at us now and having that man up, and they didn't. We shut down the game, and we did well. During that game, they're chanting for Borja Milutinovic to be fired.
Yeah.
I mean, they're asking for
you know
it
what?
during the match.
I think that's a great thing, and I think all of us for U.S. soccer.
As long as you're not the coach.
Yeah.
That's a great thing.
No, for U.S. soccer. You know what? For our national
We can
team,
learn
John,
from it. Yeah. Put more pressure on them.
to have our fans as passionate,
Yeah.
both good and bad, as the Mexican fans are, I think that's good for us. As for Hugo
I agree.
Sanchez,
100%.
Hugo Sanchez, he's done it all as a player, internationally, at a club level.
Yep.
He couldn't care less. He's got earmuffs on.
Yeah, and having said that, look, you're talking about the preparation games and the 4-0 result against Iran before they come into the Gold Cup tournament. So they've done okay. They've gotten the results still. So will they be harsh on them? Probably a little bit. It wasn't like it was the most attractive soccer being played out there. But having said that, they still got the result.
I love listening to you two talk. Some very insightful comments from John Hux and Chet Messing. When we come back, what lies ahead for the teams in Group C at the Gold Cup 2007?
At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
If you want technical analysis, then you have come to the right show. It's called Inside the Gold Cup with my Jedi Masters of Football, Obi-Wan, Chet Messing, and Yoda, John Hux. I just had to call you Yoda, John Hux. But
I'll tell you what, I'm a lightsaber, but I'll go with it.
All right, fair enough. Looking at the standings from Group C, another surprise. Up the top of the standings are Panama with Mexico in second, Honduras followed by Cuba. And next up for Cuba is Panama. And I think there could be an upset on the cards here if Cuba can play the same way they did against the Mexicans.
I definitely think we have an interesting game coming up. Nobody anticipated that Cuba really could play as well as they did in their opening game. So now all of a sudden you have an interesting dynamic. John and I don't think Panama played well, but they got the victory. We both think Cuba played well, even though they lost. So if you're Panama, how do you approach the game?
Well, I think if you're Panama, number one, you got to think about Alcantara. I mean, for Cuba up front, the number 18, he was very dangerous against Mexico. He found the seams, not just in front and playing balls to his feet. He was able to get in behind them as well, Shep, and we talked about how wide they were when they attacked Cuba. They were in a 3-4-3 system. They really had a lot of freedom to push one guy forward, out of the back, push him into the midfield, which then pushed another midfielder forward. So if you are Panama, you've got to deal with that. Against Honduras, Panama didn't. They kept Honduras in front of them quite a bit, although we were talking about how still they got behind them on the wings as well. I think they're going to have a harder time with Cuba.
Yeah, I agree. You know, Cuba has to be brimming with confidence. If they can look that effective in the attacking third of the field against a team, and Mexico's a great team, they have to be really biting. Can't wait for this game to start. I think they're going to.
Or is Mexico supposed to be a great team,
Yeah.
and they didn't show up in this tournament? I mean, that's the first game. We don't want to be too, critical of them in the first match. But like Shep said, is a very good point. They've got to really step up their game, Panama. Now look at, what would the deficiencies in Mexico's game, and then say, can we be a little bit better in our personnel individually? But put it together as a team.
Well, John, can I get you to put your coach's hat on if you are Guimaraes? How would you combat the whole Cuban running down the flanks thing?
Well, I mean, first of all, you've got to have players stepping up to the ball and putting pressure on. I think it starts with the front two strikers. If you have the players in a good formation, they're able to dictate, the style of play, at least make it a little bit more predictable than what Mexico did. And because of Mexico, with Bautista playing as a number 23 attacking midfielder, didn't seem to put any pressure on anybody and using the other strikers. I think that if you're him and you can put the pressure on right away up front, then I think it stops him from building out and getting that momentum coming forward through the midfield.
No, the other way to look at it, though, and an alternative is if you're Panama, you can say, okay, you know what? Let me play this game very solid in the back, 4 in the back, 2 holding midfielders.
I know what you're going for.
Yeah,
the counter-attack, right?
Let's see if Cuba can really have the creativity to break down a team that's going to defend. And then you know what? Cuba doesn't frighten me on the defensive side. Let them come at us. Let's make sure our flanks are covered.
Right.
2 holding midfielders, and then when we get the opportunity, we start coming forward. We counterattack.
It's a gamble, though. That's a big gamble. I'm being honest with you. That's a huge gamble because I don't think Panama is sophisticated enough, Shep, to really sit back and say, okay, let Cuba bring their best. I think Cuba has too many powers, too many individual players that can really break down a side, and it could be difficult to do that.
Interesting, though, because, again, I think Cuba did so well in part because of the way Mexico played. Mexico was very lax at the back.
Okay.
And I still think on that field, Cuba against Panama, Panama has the very best striker on the field, Perez. I'd be not superly cautious, but I'd sit back, 4 in the back, 2 holding midfielders, let Cuba come at me for 20 minutes, and then start opening up the game.
Yeah. Shep, from a goalkeeper's perspective, were you a little bit disappointed with Molina? A couple of easy opportunities for the Mexicans there. Couldn't hold on to it. I know probably the ball's rocketing in at 1,000,000 miles an hour and you can't pick that up off the television, but if he could have held on to it, the result could have been different for Cuba.
Dennis, that's a good point, but having said that, the guy's 42 years old, so I love Molina. I'm thinking of coming out of retirement and playing. He actually made a great
and
save.
Happy 44th birthday, by the way. I forgot to say that to you. Sorry about that.
He made a great save on a Castillo ball that was dipping,
Yes, he did,
and Molina got up. He's big, strong, athletic, even though he's 42, and he touched that ball over the crossbar. Obviously could have done better on the shot. Fonseca with a shot at the near post, had some velocity on it, but that's a ball
Not
he's got to
enough, though,
smother.
right, Shep?
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
it wasn't
no.
a hard-driven ball. It was more or less a ball that you expect the goalkeeper, and Shep might correct me here, but you expect the goalkeeper to make the saves he should make, and then if he makes some of the ones that you don't expect him to make, that's the bonus, and that's what keeps you in the game.
Yeah, and I was always told by Pelé just that, but he added one more. He said the balls that are going wide of the post, don't pull them into the goal. So let those go.
Right. Know exactly where you are. You're your
But
awareness
good-
of the field.
Okay.
Good goalkeeping is important.
Conversely, if you're Cuba and you're deciding your tactics against Panama, if you'd watched the tape, how would you try and undo the Panamanians?
Well, I make sure that Duarte gets enough of the ball, and Alcantara as well. Give him the ball to feet. Let Duarte. Duarte was able to get the ball, and he ran at them, and he created a lot of things going forward. So if you play simple out of the back, and they don't take as much risk, building through the midfield, which I think Cuba did very well. And the speed of play was brilliant. I mean, they moved the ball so fast and quick off their feet. 1 touch, 2 touch. They found it forward quickly. By the time you knew it, Mexico was dropping so deep in their half that they were thinking, okay, who's marking who? We're going into a shell here. And I love that when Cuba did it.
Yeah, and on the defensive side of the ball, the one player they still have to worry about is Perez. So
Yep.
we both love the way Cuba got forward, 1 touch, running off the ball, using the width of the field. But, this is a new game. You can't let down on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. And Perez, like you said, Shep, earlier, you're talking about Perez and the height that he has already over some of the players in the back and the way he can get up in the air. I mean, sometimes you look at players, you say he's 6'2", but he jumps and he's 5'9". That means he's scared to head the ball. This is a player who actually grows 4 or 5 inches when he gets up in the air, and he's great in the air.
Yeah.
And Perez, just as you mentioned, fantastic in the air. And if we take a look at him, he's just got just that leap, that natural hop, so to speak.
He does as well. He also has good feet. I mean, this is a guy that is a good striker that you can find him up top. He's a target man. He'll hold it for you, bring other players into the game. But he also, as well, is good at the feet. And so this is a combination, and it's very hard for him. You see, Gomes trying to deal with him there, and there's a great ball. Torrez puts it in the box, and Shep said it best. He gets up, he gets in front of his defender, bang, he puts it away.
Yeah, great vertical leap. And as John mentioned, you can't be a one-dimensional player. You really can in today's game.
No.
And he's shown Perez that he's got the ability to hold the ball, be a holding player up top. He's got the technical skill on the ball to run at a defender, take him on. Right. And when you're that lethal in the air as well, that's a dangerous combination.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's look ahead to Mexico and Honduras. How will the Mexicans come out for that game?
Well, hopefully they don't come out flat like they did against Cuba. I mean, I thought Mexico really need to pick up their game, and we spoke about this early on. And they might even make some changes, Shep, in terms of the attacking, position of some of the players. And if they don't, I think they're going to struggle. I really do.
I think for Mexico, they have to put that first game out of mind. They're a much better team than that. And I think for the Mexico against Honduras, they have to take the game to Honduras, right? Who do you worry about if you're Mexico in terms of defending against? I say get Honduras on the back foot, make them defend, use the width of the field, and take it to them.
Well, yeah, I mean, and although, you get a player sent off like us early on, I mean, it's the worst tackle, I mean, for him to come in. It's shocking. I mean, so the number 8's out. He's got to maybe make some tactical adjustments as well. Does that mean that he keeps Guevara in the central part of midfield in a higher role with somebody playing in behind him holding? Or does he bring on another guy who's a winger that's going to open up the game a little bit with some pace and maybe get at them and get around the backside?
Well, a couple of similarities between Cuba and Honduras is Honduras very effortlessly, like Cuba, easy going when they move the ball forward.
Well, it was easy, but what I liked about Honduras, we talked, John and I and you, Dennis, about you've got to come out and play 90 minutes hard.
Yes.
You can't coast in a game like this. So Honduras, even a man down, and maybe because they were a man down, they came out flying. I mean, the work rate was tremendous. They're going to need that work rate against Mexico, but I think they have to be more cautious. I don't think they could just try and get forward or else they'll get punished.
They have to be more cautious, Shep, and they also have to be more efficient in what they do. I mean, when they actually advance forward in the game, I think they kind of struggled a little bit on the transition defensively, going from attack to defense, and they have to be more efficient in their game as well. They kept the ball very well. Good possession, we know that, but when they lost it, they were a little bit slow in transition.
The other thing, the psychological component, Mexico got the victory, but they know they didn't play well. So if I'm Honduras, I really want to try and manage this game. The longer it goes without allowing Mexico to score a goal, now all of a sudden Mexico is going to start thinking.
If you were watching the game tape, as I'm sure Honduras is right now as we speak, what little things would you pick out that some of the deficiencies in the Mexican team, Shep?
Well, the deficiencies apparent in the game against Cuba to me were it started in the back because their outside backs had no responsibility. I mean, they really, I think, took the game for granted, left some exposed spaces back there. So when things go wrong, John, and you know that for any game, any place, start at the back. Let's tighten it up at the back. Good goalkeeping, solid at the back. Let's not give away any balls in our defensive third of the field. And then let's try and build.
Yeah,
Let's string some passes together, use the width of the field, and get forward.
Yeah, and kind of like, you know, taking off what you just said there, you know, being tight in the back and everything's great. And I think that more and more they need to understand the spacing between each other and the players. So that continuity of just having the balls being played out of the back, you know, into the midfield, but even defending-wise, they seemed to be, the spacing was too much. And they were leaving gaps for Cuba to come at them, and they weren't marking tight enough. So understanding each other and having a little bit more chemistry as a side, and maybe it was just the first game, and Shep's saying that, let's not be too critical here, but you know, they didn't look like the powerhouse Mexico that we know. They didn't look like the team that was coming in here just thwarted, ran 4-0 and got goals from all different players. It was more of a team that was shocked, surprised, didn't know how to, they fumbled with their game plan, and they've got to get better.
Yes, will Mexico and Panama come out stronger in their next matches? When we come back, we have a look at the coaching factor in the Gold Cup.
Gatorade Sports Science Institute. We test athletes in the lab. Because we know they'll be tested on the field. Gatorade, the most tested sports drink on the planet.
Work like a pro. Play like a pro. Tackle tough jobs. Dominate the game. Destroy the competition. Go professional. Choose Makita.
Welcome back to Inside the Gold Cup, and we've seen every single team on display in Group A, B and C. John, which coaches impressed, which didn't impress you?
Well, I mean, basically so far, I think there's a few coaches who haven't impressed me at all. And one of them, I would have to say,
John Hawks is looking for a job.
Look, you know, I'm just saying, Sanchez, I think he was a little bit, you know, needs to be better. I think Stephen Hart's done a good job with Canada, obviously, with the result that they had over Costa Rica. And I know Shep and I were talking about some of the other coaches, so I'm going to let you come in here.
It's so early, Dennis. It's a good question, but it's the really the increased visibility of this Gold Cup tournament that pressure's on. Pressure's on, especially
but you like
the big
him,
boys.
I mean, you like him. You know, he used to be with Costa Rica. You know, he's done well with Panama.
You don't have to.
You like him.
You set me up well. I do like Perez. I think he's got some things he's got to work on. You talk about the big three that we've mentioned: Bradley, Guimaraes, Hugo Sanchez. You know, the pressure's on. Bob Bradley just been named permanent coach of the U.S. team. Hugo Sanchez in a similar position. Look at Hugo Sanchez. I'm not crazy about the body language. This is the first game. Bob Bradley, he's not too happy either.
Yeah, I mean, he's in deep thought there, obviously. I think that's when Guatemala were doing a good job. And then there's Guimaraes, and then you know, look, he finds himself playing against a team, you know, against Honduras, who managed the game very well against Panama. So, you know, he's got some concerns, but he did a good job in terms of some of the switches and changes for the substitutions and everything else. So he did a good job.
Now, Shep, you might have mentioned that it's early days. However, one of the key things that we talked about is you've got to start this tournament well. There's not enough time to try and sort of build up and have a bit of a shaky start and then make your way through it.
Well, you know, flip side of the coin, I think that's right. John, you know, you've been there, you've played in group play. The object, get out. I don't care if you're lousy, get your points, get out, get into the knockout stage, and then we're going to start evaluating what you're doing. But Bradley, Sanchez, Guimaraes, they're top coaches. They know, they accept the pressure, they accept the responsibility, but they've made themselves target coming into the Gold Cup by saying this is the most important tournament for our teams this year.
However, one thing, John, as we saw from that graphic, they've all had the win. Okay, scrappy, not the best, not happy, but they've all won. That's a very good
point, Dennis. No, very good point, and that's true. I mean, and if you're going to gauge things on terms of success, I mean, in winning games, that's That's success. I mean, you've got to be able to win the game, get the 3 points, and move on. And they've done that. They done it in the best fashion possible? No, probably not.
Right.
I think Bradley with the U.S. has still struggled a little bit against Guatemala. I think that we already talked about Mexico and how they struggled against Cuba, but they got the results, and that's a very good point.
Now, one coach that didn't, Hernan Medford, of course, Stephen Hart, a fantastic display with the Canadian side there. How do you think he could possibly... Do you think his job's on the line if he doesn't perform well in this tournament?
I think all the coaches' jobs are on the line. I don't think anybody, and I know Hernan Medford was actually quoted as saying that I'm really looking forward to the next World Cup upcoming.
Yeah.
You got to deal with the Gold Cup first, my friend. You've got to have a good representation of your country in the Gold Cup before you start even thinking about the World Cup.
Yeah, and totally different situation for the Coach Hart that you alluded to. He's got a free pass. I mean, he's waiting for Dale Mitchell, who's coaching the Canadian under-20. So for Hart, he's coming out here having fun. I think he's got one of the teams in this tournament that can do some damage. Absolutely no pressure on him.
When you look at the whole realm of coaching and how it all goes, it's an enormous amount of pressure. What makes someone decide to do it? You know, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't sometimes in the coaching realms, John.
Well, I think coaching is, for so many players and so many, not only just players and ex-players, but also so many people, it's very rewarding. I mean, coaching a team is a very rewarding situation. You enjoy it, number one. You love the game.
You don't find it too stressful?
No. I mean, if it's too stressful, then you shouldn't be in that situation. I think that there's coaches that are successful, whether they have the knowledge of being an ex-player or they're very good man managers and their personalities are quality. And there's so many different things and that you can talk about what makes up a good coach. I think it's every day managing the team and seeing things and reading the game as well, but also the knowledge in football and what you have and bring it. It's a full package. And of course, you got to carry yourself well every single day. It can't be the highs and lows. It's got to be even keel as much as you can be.
You mentioned about reading the game. Do you think many coaches actually read the publicity, like Sanchez? Would he read what the Mexican papers are writing about? Have you ever read anything about your role?
The only thing I've read about was Shep Messing in his days, and some of the elaborate. He was in Vogue and Vanity Fair, and doing all these things.
Let me say this.
Yes,
about
they
coaching.
read the media. Yes, they do. They do.
Let me say this about coaching, because I have the utmost respect. I really do, because it takes special people, special qualities. The coaches we're talking about in Gold Cup, John Harkes. As for me, I thought about it for 2 seconds. This is serious. And I said, it's the only job in the world where the day you sign a contract, you know you're going to get fired. So I never wanted to coach.
And they always say, and that's a very good point, they always say, and Bruce Arena says this as well, the ex-national team coach, is that you only become a coach when you get fired. That's when you know you are a coach.
Excellent point.
If you would like to get in touch with us, very, very simple. All you have to do is email us at mail@awesomeballs.com. Yes, that's mail@awesomeballs.com. And if you need any information on the tournament, what's going on in the Gold Cup, www.concacaf.com or www.goldcup.org. Now make sure you tune in tomorrow, because we have all the actions from Groups A and B in the second round of the Gold Cup for 2007. See you then.
The reproduction, distribution, publication, modification, public display, public performance, or transmission of this broadcast in any manner, in whole or in part, without the express written consent of Concacaf, is strictly prohibited.